Welcome to Capitol Spotlight. It's a segment we do each and every week from the third floor of the Rhode Island State Capitol. We put the spotlight on a member of the General Assembly and discuss some of the things they've been working on and how it might impact you and how it might impact me here in the state of Rhode Island. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome back to Capitol Spotlight State Representative Dan Reilly. Representative, it's great to see you again.
As you, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
And again, I know you're very busy and you're certainly no stranger to Capitol TV. When we're not seeing you on the House floor, we see you in finance all the time and what can be sometimes some lengthy meetings. And does that challenge ever get daunting? I mean, it's in addition to the state fighting some tough economic times, those meetings are very detailed and can sometimes be pretty long.
They are, and right now we're in the middle of the budget, so of course we're at the peak of our activity in finance. But this past real 18 months has really been exceptionally busy with the pension reform legislation bringing us in the off season. So we've been very busy. It really is a second home down there in room 35. But we're powering through, and we should be wrapping up our agency hearing sometime this or next week, and then proceed on to all the bills we have to deal with.
Well, again, we carry most of those sessions live on Capitol TV so our viewers can tune in and watch firsthand. Let's talk about a couple of things you've been working on specifically. One involves conveying some land in Middletown and Newport to the United States Navy. Now, that's a pretty prestigious zip code I'm talking about in that area of our state. What precipitated that, and why is that a good idea for Rhode Island?
Well, absolutely. One of the things we've been working on with the three island communities, Portsmouth, Middletown, and Newport, as well as the U.S. Navy over the past few years, has been working on transitioning over land that has been in the hands of the Navy for many years and turning it over to the three communities for redevelopment. Part of that process has created the need for us to clarify jurisdiction that the federal government has on their own property that they're going to keep in the Navy base. And as a part of this process, the state was required to clarify that jurisdiction, and because of some antiquated laws, it turns out that about half of the Navy base in Middletown and Newport was actually under the jurisdiction of the local government. Now, that may seem somewhat complicated, but in reality what that meant is any time a crime was committed or something that required police assistance, the Middletown Police Department would have to be used, and that ate up a considerable amount of their resources, as you could imagine, particularly when the Navy base has their own police department. So the bill that I had submitted that was just recently passed last week out of the House of Representatives clarifies the jurisdiction on the Navy base. It's now exclusively all within federal jurisdiction. It allows local police officers to deal with the other parts of the community that they have to take care of, and it's one more part of the process of transitioning that land over to local control.
And when you talk about just police protection as one example, that then frees up those folks to take care of Newport and Middletown.
Absolutely, and that's what we're looking for. I wouldn't really classify this as a mandate so much as it was an inconvenience, and it was taking police officers off the road. So I'm glad to see that the Navy really took point on this, drafted the legislation with us, and we're really able to fix this, and it's something that all parties wanted to see happen.
And I would think, too, that logistically it would make just a lot more sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And these are the types of things we're looking through, some of them minor, such as this bill, really, and some of them more major in terms of getting that land over to local control and redeveloping it, because that really is going to be the source of tremendous economic development opportunities for the three island communities.
As you mentioned, dealing with the budget this year, as you and your colleagues on the House Finance Committee do each and every year, and the members of the General Assembly, people are looking for ways to try to get revenue any way they can. Can you bring us up to date? What's the latest on the Sakonnet River Bridge? There's been talk about tolls. There's going to be tolls. There's not going to be tolls. Bring us up to speed as to what's the current status on that whole project.
Well, fortunately, the project itself is actually moving along very well. We're completing the bridge decking now as we speak, so the project actually replacing the bridge is doing very well. Unfortunately, a key element of the governor's budget proposal involving transportation funding requires tolls to be placed on the Sakonnet River Bridge. I'm steadfastly opposed to that proposal for a variety of reasons, but one issue that did come up through the course of our hearings that we held several weeks ago is that the Turnpike and Bridge Authority is supposed to be setting the rates for these tolls, and the communities that are going to be affected by this don't have any representation on the authority board. So regardless of whether or not the proposal actually is successful, and I hope it isn't, but if it is, I want to see the communities I represent at least have representation on the board that's going to be setting the toll rates that my constituents are going to have to pay.
Well, that seems only fair and reasonable if that indeed is necessary. What do your instincts tell you right now?
Well, actually, the change, I think, it should happen. The Director of Transportation and I have had discussions, and it really was an oversight, I think, on the part of the governor's office, but quite frankly, we really didn't even see it ourselves until we were in committee and we were looking at the legislation. He thinks it makes sense, and when you look at the composition of the current authority board, it really is designed for a bridge that runs between Newport and Jamestown. They have had representatives on the board, so I think it only makes sense that Portsmouth, Tiverton, and Middletown also have representatives on the authority board of directors if tolls are placed on the Secana River Bridge.
Representative Reilly, thank you so much for talking to us. I know you're very busy, and you always make time for us to talk about some of the issues you're working on. I wish you and your colleagues in the House the best.
Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for having me.
And of course, thanks to you for tuning in. For Capitol Television from the third floor of the Rhode Island State House, I'm Dave Barber.